Welcome to First Sleep Aid, calm stories to help you unwind, learn, and fall asleep. From true crime to curious facts and thoughtful ideas, always softly spoken. Subscribe now and take a deep breath. You're in good hands.
Okay, so ready to dive into something pretty bizarre.
Always up for a good mystery. Hit
Oh,
me.
well, buckle up, because this one is a real head scratcher, to say the least. We're talking about the Phantom of Heilbronn, a case that, well, it kind of shook the foundations of forensic science for a while.
Oh, yeah, I remember hearing about this one. It's the one with the DNA, right? Found all over Europe.
You got it. So picture this, early 2000s, and law enforcement across Europe, Austria, France, Germany, they start finding this same female DNA at crime scenes. And not just one or two, like we're talking over 40 different scenes over several years.
Wow, that's a lot. So what kind of crimes are we talking about here?
Well, that's the thing. It was all over the place, right? Like you had petty thefts, burglaries, you name it. They even found it on like a syringe used by a heroin addict, a stolen car, even a random cookie left at a break-in. Just like bizarre, you know?
Okay, yeah, that's pretty strange. Doesn't sound like your typical serial criminal MO.
Exactly. And then things get even crazier. In 2007, this DNA pops up again, but this time it's at the scene of a murder. A police officer, Michelle Kieswetter, is killed in Heilbronn, Germany, and her partner is seriously injured.
Oh, wow. So this, phantom goes from petty thief to cop killer.
That's how it seemed. And the press, of course, they go wild, right? The Phantom, the woman without a face. They came up with all these nicknames for this unknown woman. I mean, you can imagine the fear this created, the idea of this phantom criminal roaming around, committing all these crimes.
Yeah, I can see how that would get everyone on edge. So what did the police do?
Well, naturally, it was all hands on deck, right? They set up task forces, working groups, all this international collaboration trying to track this woman down. They were convinced they were dealing with some kind of, master criminal.
That makes sense. You have the same DNA at all these scenes. Seems like an open and shut case, almost.
Right. Except for one, huge glaring problem. There was absolutely no other evidence connecting this woman to any of the crimes. No fingerprints, no witnesses, no security camera footage, nothing. It was just the DNA.
Hold on, wait, really? That's incredibly strange. I mean, how do you have so many crime scenes but zero other evidence?
That's what everyone was wondering, right? Like, how is this even possible? And it just made the whole case seem even weirder and more unsettling. It was like she was a ghost, just leaving behind this genetic trace.
I see what you mean about it shaking the foundations of forensic science. You'd think if someone was that active, there'd be something else, some other clue, right?
Absolutely. And it started to make some investigators wonder, it's like, is it even possible that this is the same person at all these crimes? I mean, you have everything from, stealing a car to, this targeted killing of a police officer. It just doesn't seem to add up, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I get it. The range of crimes is just so broad. It almost seems like it has to be a mistake, right?
Exactly. And, they did consider contamination, like maybe there was some kind of issue with the samples or the lab work. But initially, that idea was pretty much dismissed.
I guess the idea of the phantom was just too compelling, huh?
Yeah. And you have to remember, this is all happening in the wake of the Kieswetter murder.
Yeah.
So there's this huge amount of pressure to solve this case, to catch this supposed cop killer.
Right. So the focus was laser focused on finding this one woman.
Exactly. And that's what makes what happened next so, mind-blowing, honestly.
Yeah.
So it's 2009, right? Years have passed. Tons of money and resources have been spent on this investigation, and still, they're no closer to finding this phantom woman. And then, out of the blue, comes this totally unexpected breakthrough.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. What happened?
So investigators in Bavaria, just on a whim almost, decide to test some DNA swabs that were being used in autopsy rooms. Just standard procedure, making sure everything's clean.
Right, makes sense.
And guess what they find?
Don't tell me the phantom's DNA.
Bingo, right there, on these unused sterile swabs. I mean, can you imagine?
No way. So it was contamination all along? But how?
Oh, they did a deep dive, right. And it turns out the DNA belonged to a woman who worked at the factory that made the cotton swabs.
So, her DNA got on the swabs during the manufacturing process?
Exactly. Apparently, even though the swabs were sterilized, killed all the bacteria and stuff, it didn't totally get rid of all the microscopic traces of her DNA.
Wow, so this whole Phantom of Heilbronn, this international criminal mastermind everyone was looking for, turned out to be like a factory worker who just happened to shed some skin cells on some cotton swabs.
That's the crazy part. It wasn't some brilliant criminal. It was just like a totally mundane, almost unbelievable accident.
That is wild. I mean, talk about a twist ending.
Right. And you think about all the resources, the time, the fear, all because of this tiny, almost invisible mistake.
It really makes you think about the power of DNA evidence, right? Like how much weight we give it.
Absolutely. In this case, it was like everyone was so focused on the DNA that they overlooked everything else, all the things that didn't add up.
And it makes you wonder, are there other cases out there where maybe we've made similar mistakes, where we've put too much faith in one piece of evidence and missed the bigger picture?
That's a good question. And I think the Phantom of Heilbronn is a good reminder that even with something like DNA evidence, which seems so definitive, there's always the possibility of error. It's not infallible.
Right, and it highlights the importance of questioning everything, of always looking for other explanations, no matter how unlikely they might seem.
Exactly. I mean, in the end, the Phantom wasn't some master criminal. It was a system error, a flaw in the process. And it had these huge real-world consequences.
Yeah, think about the impact on public trust in law enforcement and forensic science. It's hard to imagine how you even begin to repair that kind of damage.
It's a powerful story. And I think it ultimately reminds us that we need to be humble. You know, even with all our technology and advancements, mistakes can happen. And sometimes those mistakes can have huge ripple effects.
It's a good lesson for all of us, right? To remember that we don't have all the answers and to be open to the possibility that we might be wrong, even when we're sure we're right.
So, as we wrap up here, I think the Phantom of Heilbronn is a reminder that sometimes the most compelling evidence can lead us down the wrong path, and that it's always, always worth taking a step back, looking at the bigger picture and asking ourselves, what if we're missing something?
What if there's another explanation, even if it seems far-fetched? That's the question we should all be asking ourselves, not just in forensic science, but in any field where we rely on evidence and expertise.
And maybe, just maybe, if we can all do that, we can avoid creating more phantoms in the future.
Maybe we can avoid letting our assumptions blind us to the truth, whatever that truth might be.
Well said. Thanks for diving into this one with me. It's a case that definitely makes you think, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And thanks to everyone listening for joining us on this deep dive. Always remember to keep asking questions and never stop searching for the truth.